Hello, Starseeds, and welcome to Magic Monday, June. I was saying June. Welcome to Magic Monday, October 16th, Monday. We are going to go over the chart of the everlasting now, as well as Starseed card readings for all zodiac signs. We're going to start with Libra right now because the sun is in Libra. Happy birthday, Libras. So we are going to go into where all of the planets and where all the luminaries are currently sitting in the sky, in the cosmos, as it stands right now on October 16th, 2023. I am your host, Rachel Z. So let's get into the chart of the everlasting now. All right, so you can see the chart of the moment. If you want to take a look at your own astrological birth chart, or even if you want to take a look at this chart on your own time, I have a link in the show notes under my particular link. If you want to book any kind of reading like that, I have Thursdays and Fridays open for any kind of sessions like that. So as I mentioned before, we do have the sun. It's currently sitting in Libra. We also do have a couple of other friends in the same vicinity. As you can see here, we have Mercury, which the winged cap, very close to the sun right now, so a bit of a sun-Mercury conjunction. Additionally, Mars is there, but Mars is no longer in Libra. I've had a lot of astrologer friends talk about the fact that Mars is in its detriment in Libra. And just for some background information, what Mars represents in your birth chart, or what Mars represents in general in astrology, is drive. So if other planets talk about how you love and your goals and all that kind of stuff, Mars is how you get that ish done, that inner will. So also, it's sex itself, right? So that sex drive, that's all Mars energy. It being in Scorpio right now is still very intense energy. However, it's cusping from Libra, which I think a lot of people talked about the shadow side of Libra being retaliatory. So you did this to me, I'm going to balance things out by doing something else to you. So we have to move above that. There are some elements of that in Scorpio as well, that bit of evening the odds and that kind of thing. We also do have the moon in spicy Scorpio right now, and as a reminder, the moon represents your inner world, your inner child, your inner mother, your inner emotional world, one of the three in your astro stack. Especially if you think about the card readings, a lot of times people will say, hey, I don't really feel like, if I say that I'm a Scorpio, and I don't necessarily feel like a Scorpio, perhaps my moon sign is in another position like Pisces, and that brings a little bit more of a dream-like, flowy state feeling to how you feel, and it's a little bit less intense than what Scorpio is. So all of those different combinations between your sun, your moon, as well as your ascendant sign give you your own unique special flavor as it comes to how you experience life in this incarnation in the cosmos. So that's the moon, that's in Scorpio right now. We're not going to pay too much attention to the housing system because that's all dependent on the ascendant and when I pulled this chart specifically. And remember, it's all happening right now. And other things I want to look at in terms of the chart of the everlasting now are Venus, of course. Venus is in Virgo, and my Venus represents love, beauty, relationships, all of that good stuff. And being in Virgo, Virgo is very much concerned with service, with health. And so I think of this as like, this is a good opportunity to love your body, self-love, and to bear in mind the shadow side of Virgo, which is perfectionism and striving for perfectionism in these kind of elements where love somehow is conditional to a certain type of behavior. We need to move past that kind of thinking and more along the lines of unconditional love of self from a perspective of taking care of the self. And so when we think of health, you honor your body by perhaps eating vegetables that you don't want to eat, but your body needs them for nutrients, that kind of thing. So that's all of the lessons of Venus in Virgo in the energies of the cosmos this evening. As well, we have a really strong opposition here, and opposition is going to be a theme of the starseed card readings as we get into those, because you can see Saturn has a direct opposition here to Venus, and that's very intense because everyone loves Venus. Everyone wants to be with Venus. A story about Venus when she was first created, when she first stepped onto the scene off of her shell onto the land. She was apparently created from, this is actually a good way to kind of remember Saturn. I remember Saturn because if you look at Saturn's little glyph here, it looks like a scythe, like a little, when I do the recut for this show, I will show a little picture of, you know, like Death has a little scythe and it's got like this knife thing. Anyways, that thing. So Saturn is also known as Chronos, time, all that kind of stuff. And Uranus, which is also here, is Uranus still in Taurus? Let me look. Yeah, of course, it's stayed there forever. So Uranus had his genitals cut off by Saturn. And when the sea foam, the juices from that castration fell into the sea, and what emerged was Venus. That's one of the creations of Venus. And so they're very much interlinked in a very intense way from a cosmological perspective. Now remember, when we talk about these star stories, it's not quite so, you know, what does that mean to say that Saturn, time, cut off Uranus's genitals? And from a bigger perspective, Uranus was very much in love with Gaia. So Uranus also represents sky and is a higher octave of Mercury. And so in the beginning of one of these creation myths, Gaia and Uranus were so close together, so tight together, that they would only be separated by this castration. So it was like a necessary thing to have separation so that life could thrive. Interesting concept if we think of that cosmologically. Having this opposition here, Saturn's in a very interesting spot between Pisces and Aquarius right now. It in Pisces, I remember saying in my previous talks about the cosmos, that your dreams are very much, you can find direction in your dreams, as well as being that Saturn rules time and karma. Our dreams may reveal places in our past or memories that need to be addressed now. Now, having an Aquarius, it's almost like this prep for what's going to be happening next year, as Pluto will also be moving into Aquarius. You can see him right here in Capricorn coming back. So this right here, in this in-between state of Saturn deals also with responsibility, our work, our greater responsibilities to not just ourselves but to those around us. So responsibility, and that influx here is almost like this is the dreamscape and this is social responsibility, and there's a level of having your dreams also serve the dreams of the greater good, and we just have to practice discernment with all of our multidimensional selves to determine a path forward. Now, having that opposing Venus, oppositions are one of those aspects in astrology that can be challenging, just like squares, but there can be immense power to be that can come from those lessons through the challenge, especially in oppositions, where if you think of positive and negative, these are opposing forces and they create a charge in between them. And so Virgo and the cusp here is not necessarily, so Virgo's opposition is Pisces, because we think of Virgo being earth plane, very practical, and Pisces being the dream state, like, and very unseen, unconscious. And having this here, it's like bridging the gap through love. That's how you work through things that don't seem logically sound, right? So as we practice our discernment, we need to think of things, of course, in a very logical way, a very practical way, but that can also be opposed with our more heart-centered way of feeling things through with our bodies when it comes to making decisions. So that's that kind of opposition power to kind of sift through your own emotions as you're going through the week. as well. Other things to kind of point out here, the North Node is making its way through Aries. A reminder that the North Node is the head of the dragon, where you find destiny, where you find your path forward. Having it, of course, with Chiron here with Aries, it's about cultivating the warrior spirit, of course, your inner warrior that stands for what is right and what is good and protects everything that is needed to be protected, of course. Let's see, other things in the chart to look at before we move on. I like this calculator just because it points out things quite easily. Yeah, we're in the later degrees of Libra, so we're coming close to Scorpio season, of course, because, Halloween falls in Scorpio season. Okay, so fun things to look at. Multiple planet opposition. I already talked about the whole Venus-Saturn opposition. Yeah, 0 degree Pisces. So it's really right on that cusp, on that in-between state, kind of where we are as an age right now. The ascendant we're not going to look at too much, but the moon in Scorpio, and let's look at that. Other opposition to look at. So seeing that the moon is in Scorpio, the opposition to Scorpio is Taurus. Having Uranus in Taurus opposing Scorpio. So Uranus itself is a generational planet. It's usually not activated unless you have other planets aspecting with it to activate it. And so in this case, the moon is a very powerful luminary, and it's good to look at what aspects the moon is creating. And so with Uranus is about the rebel, about change, ruled by 2 planets, both Saturn and, Saturn, you're ruled by 2 signs. It only rules Aquarius. I'm thinking Aquarius is ruled by 2 signs, getting the sign and the luminary confused here. Now, planetary rulers and signs are slightly different. They have each other's flavors, but just like the housing system as well, you have to take all of those into consideration when you're crafting the story between them. So the opposition between the moon in Scorpio and Uranus in Taurus. Taurus represents value, and not just monetary value, although that is the case. It also represents intrinsic value and resources. The moon opposing it, it's one of these things where my mom is a Scorpio, and I am a Taurus, and so there's this level of, they're both fixed in things and ways of doing things, and having the moon in Scorpio is very, very intense. So there can be this emotional resistance to the way that Uranus is changing things. So if we think of Uranus as being more generational, there is going to be an upheaval in terms of systems of monetary value, and the moon opposing it is very much like we have to be aware of our own emotional responses to it and to mobilize in a way that we generate our own personal worth and less of this scorpionic way of quickly like, okay, I'm going to borrow money to do this. Maybe it's a matter of thinking of strategies of just how to generate value intrinsically and less of contractually. So just a new way. That's just my way of looking through this, because we're looking at very, very spicy time astrologically, and everyone's going to have to kind of look inward and not let our emotional triggers be the things that drive our decisions. So Scorpio does have that energy, like with Mars here, of like, I'm going to get you back. And hey, I'm got a lot of Aries placements. I'm all for like, hey, if you want to fuck with me, I'm going to F you too. But there's a level of, is that energy better spent towards your own personal goals and getting this dream stuff, like your own goals and stuff, in alignment, and so that you have all of that stuff. If it so happens that, a healthy dose of like revenge it falls into how this works, so be it. But don't let this blind you, or as I said, emotional triggers blind you to the bigger picture. All right. Now, with that, let's get into the card readings. I'm actually also going to be filming a really fun talk with my friend Pastel. We're going to be talking about anime and our top 5 anime picks for stories that helped, mold us, or like our recommendations for animes to check out and why. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to get into the readings. Okay. we're going to start with Libra, and we're going to keep things super simple in the sense of we're going to do a single card pull from the major arcana. Oops, there we go. 6 is right. I have to work out how I can see the chat from OBS. I'll figure that out later. But for now, I just want it to be on time. Okay, so I have the major arcana pulled out. So a reminder, the major arcana in tarot are the first 22 cards from the Fool to the World that talk about also just like the wheel of the Zodiac, the journey of life, and a type of story in and of itself. And they do match up to cards in the Zodiac, so that's kind of nice. Okay. All right, so Libra, happy birthday, Libra, even though we're coming out of Libra season. I think of Libra season as also eclipse season. And it splits the chart, right? So if we think of oppositions, the opposition of Libra, of course, is Aries. And if we think of Aries as being the self, Libra is where I guess we realize that we are more than just this one self, right? That we are multiple. And also the idea of being in a partnership and being, sharing, that kind of stuff. So Libra, we're going to do a single card pull for you, considering the energies right now and that opposition we have between the moon and Uranus, as well as the fact that we have the sun and Mercury in a pretty close conjunction in your sign right now. So Mercury being there means that there can be a lot of freedom in how you communicate. So Libra, we have, ooh, nice card, the High Priestess. Beautiful. So the High Priestess talks about knowledge that's not quite seen, very Scorpio, I'd like to say. She comes after the magician, and so if the magician's about the material, bringing things to form, the High Priestess is about like that higher learning that's involved. There's also the pomegranate here, and pomegranates are very much tied to Persephone and Hades, and the idea of, if we think of that myth of Persephone being stolen and brought into the underworld, and Demeter mourns, and that's why we have a change of seasons. Libra is, of course, the fall. It's funny because my husband's a Libra, and he's like, he hates the fall. And it's just that change of the season, right? And change is never easy. It's useful, though, to know that we are in a cycle of things and everything just comes and flows. And so whether or not you have a favorite in it, just know that this too shall pass. And if you're going through a hard time, Libra, just find solace in how you're able to communicate and express. That's a way of alchemizing feelings, writing poetry, writing a letter to yourself, journaling, speaking to yourself, making voice notes to yourself, doing videos, kind of like what I'm doing right now. It's just a way of alchemizing all of this stuff that's inside to have it come out, because if you don't, that like festers and it's not good. So High Priestess, inner intel knowledge for you, Libra. All right, so moving along. Yes, so I started in Libra. I'm sorry, Aries. You won't be last though. So Libra typically like takes you into like the underworld of the chart. So then you have like the lower, the more intra personal signs. So the ones that deal with more of us as the all. So next after Libra, we have Scorpio. Scorpio, we have for you from the major arcana. Just gonna shuffling. Okay. Temperance. Okay, Temperance I like. Speaking of alchemy, I look at Temperance as a very alchemical card in the sense of a matter of taking disparate parts that don't seem related and putting it together to make something new. No different than when you bake a cake and you have flour and sugar and all these things and you make the cake. That cake is more than just like the flour. It's like a new thing, right? And also if you don't put them together in the right order, or if you like burn something, you're not guaranteed the out just because you have all the pieces of things. And this is the magic of alchemy, and when we think of how anything creative comes into form. So Scorpio, this alchemical card here says to me that there's a lot of heightened emotions, especially with the moon in your sign right now. There's going to be this, it can feel overwhelming, the amount of even bad news and stories that are so tragic. And if you are a very empathetic person, it pulls on you and it can feel almost paralyzing. But we have to take those emotions. There's still power, there's still vibration and frequency and energy in all of those things, and you can take that pain and you can alchemize it into art. That is a true blessing. That is a true gift that we have as human beings, to take emotions that come from thoughts that are very mental. There is a close conjunction between our soul, right, our main way of being here, the captain of our soul, and being able to communicate. We need to express. If we don't express who we really are, then a part of us dies inside. And Temperance is here to kind of just tell you that there is a way. Don't let parts of yourself be sacrificed just to survive. There must be a way. Okay, so Scorpio, you have Temperance. All right, so next we're going to move into Sagittarius. So if we think Libra is a cardinal sign, Scorpio is a fixed sign. So finally we have Sagittarius, which is a mutable fire sign. And my pull for you is the Tower. Okay, Sagittarius. Tower usually means, I see here, like, I pulled a Tower card once because I always do card pulls whenever we do ceremony, like psychedelic mushroom journeys or any kind of traversing into the magical realms. I pull a card just to navigate. And I pulled the Tower once, and it was a pretty epic journey. What the Tower represents is a breaking down of old constructs and old belief systems. In NLP, we talk about self-limiting beliefs and a matter of looking at certain beliefs that we sometimes hold on to, sometimes old stories. I think of this as almost even like old toxic friends that you've had for years and years and years, and they like gossip about you, and they're not really like great friends, but you like keep them around because you're like, well, we've been friends a long time. But sometimes something needs to happen, and you need to just cut all those ties and burn the whole thing down so that you can start fresh with friendships that you will now have space in your heart for, and you're not busy kind of like being bled away in these like relationships that aren't helping you, Sagittarius. So this can mean also other things too. The Tower is very much symbolic of a structure or any kind of thing in your life that perhaps needs to fall away to make way for more fertile soil for you to build up something new, as well as it could just mean a part of yourself that needs to fall away to make way for something else. Or it could just feel like the world is ending right now, and to sit in that and know that that can't last forever, and there's something else on the other side of it, because that is what the Tower always means. It's not you're not just in this forever. It's a necessary action to get to the other side of something. So that's the Tower for you, Sagittarius. All right, so next we're going to move into Capricorn. Oh my gosh. Okay, Capricorn. I'm going to leave both cards out. That's what they say if you divinate, if both cards fell out. I like these ones too. So Capricorn, the Fool, and then the Hierophant. The Fool is all about embarking on a journey. It's also about, I would say, a mental state. So this courage to play the fool, even though the lesson to this is to not be foolhardy, but to have a light heart about embarking on any kind of new experience that you have at the forefront. So this is that energy that's coming through. And then the Hierophant is about learning lessons and mastery of things, and either being that you are going to be a type of mentor for someone, or a mentor will make itself appear to you. Not quite sure which way. Like, I mean, if it's the Fool, it might be one of those things, how like in those movies where you're about to embark on a journey or a quest, you're like, oh, here we go, and then you're like, but wait, I need to learn how to use a sword in the Dragon Warriors, right? Sword play. I'm writing a scene actually right now where sword play and like learning what weapon is your best. So perhaps you're not a swords person and you're trying to learn how to sword play, but maybe you're better off with a staff or daggers or a bow and arrow. Something else might be better suited to you, and that comes through understanding self. And so mastery of self can come in a number of forms, of course, right? You can, seek out a master. I feel like those are hard to come by these days. I've had a few teachers in my life, so that, they are there, as well as also a call for you to, if you have something to share, like we are both teachers and forever students, right? So a matter of also giving back as well. So for you, Capricorn, we have the Fool and the Hierophant. Back into the deck we go. Moving right along, we have Aquarius next. I love Aquarius. The other fixed sign. So Capricorn's cardinal and Aquarius is fixed. We do have, it's Saturn 0 degrees. Pisces is going to be in Aquarius basically tomorrow. And the midheaven, but we're not going to look at that. Midheaven in most charts, though, if you were to look at your midheaven, talks about your career. I look at it as like your magnum opus of work. It gives you a little bit of indicator to that. And as I said, Pluto is going to be making its way back into Aquarius by the end of the year. Okay, so Aquarius. Death. Dun, dun, dun. I love this death card, though. Out of all of them, Shadowscapes is a nice phoenix rising from the ashes situation. So Aquarius, all about reinvention and re-looking at things in your life and who you are, what that really means. I was writing in a little bit of an article, not an article, newsletter article. So if you're interested in getting our newsletter, the Golden Sugar newsletter, please sign up. I'll leave a link. But the idea of refinding yourself, and sometimes we build up these like false versions of us that aren't really you, and they need to die for you to come back anew. And death can come in many forms, right? There is actual death, there is actual transition happening right now. For example, Suzanne Summers, I found out, passed away quite recently, and I love Suzanne Summers, Thigh Master. Kat was like step by step, like all that, and she was like the blonde bombshell of the 80s. So I kind of like grew up with that archetype, and there is a level of death to old storylines, and that on a more symbolic level as well, to make way for the new mythos, new stories, new things that are happening in the new world. And it can be painful, but we do have to remember that, through that pain, through the rebirth, through coming out of it, through like rising and being the phoenixing out of it, Aquarius, like there is such power, there is such freedom from like sloughing off these things that no longer serve you at all, and just being truly good with that decision is very free. So the death card for you, Aquarius, for this June 16th Starseed card reading. All right, so next we have Pisces. We have Neptune that's in Pisces right now, as well as I said, Saturn hanging out there in that cusp. And our card reading for you is the Magician. Pow. I love this Magician card too. It's number one card, but remember we count 0, the egg of potential, followed by the 1, the Magician, all of us being magicians, creating a world as we orate it, right? Abracadabra, I create as I speak. And so this Magician card for you, Pisces loves to live in a dream world. I have Pisces friends. Even with people with Pisces moon placements, you'll feel like, dreams and possibilities, and it can feel so much better. Like you can almost feel like, and I know this from as being someone who spends a lot of time in her dream world. Like, you've already done things, right? Because you've like dreamed of it happening, or like even deja vu, right? Where you're like, oh wow, I did something, but like I've already done this before in my dream. So this Magician card, Pisces, is all about the idea of like, even though you have already done it in your dream world, you still have, I shouldn't say you still have to, but there is value to acting out in 3D space what those dreams are, especially if they're very possible, and especially even more so if those dreams also serve the good of all humanity, because you have a responsibility then, right? So Pisces, your dreams have value, and part 2 of that, step 2 of realizing your dreams, writing them down and acknowledging them, is to taking the next step to figuring out how to make those come into reality. And it might just be that you just need to ask a little help from your friends, your other fellow magicians. So that is my reading for you, Pisces, the Magician card. Where did I just put? Okay, there you go. I thought I lost my deck for a second there. That would have been crazy. Speaking of making things disappear. All right, we are now halfway through. We are now back at Aries. So the opposite sign to Libra is Aries. And the other oppositions happening right now, I just noticed looking at the chart. Let's do a little quick. See if it doesn't screw up. Yeah. The Sun and the North Node. Yeah. So North Node is Rahu, the head of the dragon, speaks about the destiny, the nodes of destiny. I look at it as like a waypoint in a video game. It kind of dictates like the lessons you need to learn in this life. And when we are looking at more of a collective reading like this, we think of the North Node as the node of destiny for the world. And you know, there's a lot of conflict, which is, yes, Aries' jam, but it's also hanging out in this 12th house area right now as I'm reading this. So I look at this as more of a spiritual war, and we are in the midst of that. And that's why I'm creating a lot more content coming up about inspiration and for you to cultivate your own inner spiritual warrior so that you can stand firm in your own beliefs and goals and persona and person and who that is as a human being that has value. And that North Node opposing the Sun right now and Mercury, I think this is where all of us need to work on. It's tough right now to speak what you really feel because there will be pushback to it. But if we can work past that pushback, there can be immense power through that. And yes, there might be conflict when you try to communicate what's in your soul right here. But if you are able to, then what can come out of that is more direction in the greater collective soul journey, right? So everyone at an individual level needs to be a revolutionary in speaking up for themselves, and then so that you can speak up for those who need you to. Okay, so all that being said, Aries, here we go. Aries, we've got the High Priestess. Kind of funny that both Libra and Aries got this. So the High Priestess is also about Earth, Mother, Goddess, Divine Feminine Principle. The way that like Magician and then High Priestess are duality and bounce off each other. So High Priestess here is very much about inner knowledge and inner intel, Aries, and you know, to get out of your head space and into your heart space, as well as the owl here. It's really speaking to me and being light about it. You know, it doesn't have to be so heavy. The truth, and yet I was reading something about how love is very much associated with birds, because the heart, it's not about possession. When you love something, you are able to let it be free, because by choice, that love comes back to you. And that's how we need to look at even wisdom and loving wisdom and experience, that we have to allow it to happen, not this like, you know, holding on to like sand in our fingertips and like squeezing so tight that it all falls out. This to let things be and let inner knowing kind of have a hand in it. So Aries, the High Priestess, very much a nice counter to your opposite sign of Libra. Okay, so next we have Taurus, which is my birth sign, and of course I'm biased. Okay, Taurus babies. One card pull, we've got, oh, yay, the Sun. What a lovely pull. The Sun. The Sun is you see here, like this fine gentleman on his peacock, and you know, the Sun is very much represented like by Leo, but also your heart. And you know, the Sun, when we talk about your birthday, that is your solar return. That is where the Sun was when you were born. So if a baby was born at this very moment, this would be his birth chart, his or her birth chart, right? So having the Sun here, Taurus, we also do, as I said, Uranus, which has been hanging out for forever. We do also have Jupiter, and Jupiter is the king of the gods, and having that in Taurus, and as I said, my interpretation of Taurus, like they always like to say like, oh, you know, like food and excess, and Tauruses are slow, and you're like bull. There's also a level of esotericness when it comes to Taurus, when it comes to sacred bull imagery. Hathor was a bull, the idea of nourishment, and the milk from the Milky Way also corresponding to the Nile, and the water of life coming from a cow. So if we think about the Sun here as well, Taurus says, I want us to all dig down deep into your heart. And eclipses, which just passed, are really realistically a lot about change. And if there's anything the Tauruses hate most, it's change. Because even if something's hurting, hey, at least we already know what's going on. So I'm just gonna, you know, keep plodding along and keep doing it, right? No, unless that is what is working for you, it's time to check in with your soul, my Taurus friends, and double check to see if you are truly in accordance with what your soul's purpose is. So just a little double check there. Taurus is the Sun. All right. Next we have Gemini, which is the third sign in that quadrant of Aries being cardinal and then Taurus being fixed, which is why they dislike change so much. And then Gemini, which is the mutable, airy sign of intelligence. But sometimes mutable signs, sometimes they're so flaky, but we all have all of those within us, right? We just need to, yeah. So Gemini, we got the Wheel of Fortune. And Pat Sajak from Wheel of Fortune retiring, and then Vanna White's just gonna stay. It's gonna be weird. Anyways, Wheel of Fortune is more like, if you look at the Wheel of Fortune, it also manages to match up with, like, look at the wheel, right? They match. And if you think about even the Zodiac wheel, it is like a wheel of time. So having this show up, Gemini, this is about an indicator of a little, like, a wake-up call, like, hey, Geminis. There are cycles that we're in right now, and we are in a grander cycle of, how should I put this? Okay, so we all have our own dreams and we have our own realities, but like a bubble, it's also like bouncing against others' dreams and realities, and those that we love the most, they all kind of like magically merge together. Juiciness. So with the Wheel of Fortune here, Gemini, this is just an indicator of fate having a hand right now in the next week, especially if we think of nothing's happening in your sign right now, but Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and having Mercury very close to the Sun, there's this level of communication. And with Geminis, with this wheel here, a level of awareness of where you are in the timeline of the story, so that when you're acting, you're in accordance to that, and just to be aware of it's not just you. There are other folks in the story that need to be accounted for the whole story to work, even the ones where you are the main character, right? So Gemini, just to have a little bit of heart awareness here, especially since Venus is very much opposing Saturn. There can be a level too of harshness in our relationships, and Gemini, like awareness of where you are with yourself in timing so that you don't inadvertently pull other people into a wheel that is not their time. So yeah, just do some inner work, come into yourself, take a little check-in and see where you are in your story. And if people aren't in that correct story, that maybe do them a service and like talk about it, something like that. All right, Gemini, Wheel of Fortune. Next we've got Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, and this is the final quadrant in that whole wheel. Speaking of the Wheel of Time, Cancer is a cardinal sign, cardinal water sign, ruled by the moon. And we have the Magician. And this is almost like a similar message I have for my Pisces friends, where I would say that Cancers and Tauruses like love each other very much because we're like homebodies, we like good food and like comfort. And I think a differentiating factor is that Cancer, being cardinal, isn't as afraid of change as perhaps Taurus is, although can be a bit more stuck or like set in their crabby in their ways of loving and emotions, because Cancer is ruled by the moon. Emotions and how they feel and think is what guides any kind of like behavior. And so with the Magician here, it's very much a matter of being aware, Cancer, that what you do, your actions do have an effect in like tangible reality, and that like sometimes we feel like the world is ending, and you have in your room and you have a cry and you do all this, and I don't think we realize that when we have that grief, we're also connecting to other people's grief. Sometimes we feel sad, we don't necessarily know why, and that's part of like alchemizing emotions. And if you didn't cry and then you felt sad and then just didn't cry, you just were like, okay, I feel sad, but I'm gonna pretend like I don't. And if you do that too often, that all just builds up in a sort of way. So the Magician here is about when we give form to emotions, when we punch something, like that's why I like boxing, right? When you punch something, when you feel angry, when you scream, when you feel rage, when you, all of this is this. Because if you don't, that energy has to go somewhere. And this is why I like biofield tuning, because if you feel trauma, or let's say you're in a position where you're embarrassed, I've been here before too, where it's a public scenario and someone embarrasses you and you're just like standing there like, oh my gosh, I can't actually react emotionally in the way that I feel. That just goes in and then creates disease, actually, and because your energetics are kind of held up. So this is a sign, Cancer, don't hold in the emotion. If you're feeling grief, there is a way to have it come out, and it's just about deciding what way is best for you personally, whether or not that's painting or, as I said, like getting it all out in a fighting kind of class, doing boxing classes, doing like fitness has always been that for me. Like working out in the gym has always been a fantastic way of alchemizing and transforming these emotions that are sometimes can feel like too much, and having that use that to building a body. So that's one way. But Cancers, it's just about honoring your emotions. Don't pretend and like put it off to the side, because it will hurt you otherwise. Okay, and don't take it on other people. Don't do that either. All right, next we have Leo, my Leo, the lion-hearted. Shuffle for this week. I don't know why I said it was June. That's where my head's at. But for you, Leo, we have the Sun. Excellent. And Leo is ruled by the Sun, and Kevin was watching Robin Hood Men in Tights. He pulled that up for me, 1993, and Richard the Lion-Hearted, that archetype is very much the Sun, Leo, bravery, courage, and having this here is just accented by the need for you to express bravery and courage in your own life, Leo, whatever it is you're dealing with right now. The Sun is there to kind of like an indication of listen to your heart. Okay, so Leo, we have the sun. Oh my gosh. And I'm trying to keep this to an hour, so my timing looking good, because we have one sign left. We have Virgo, which currently has Venus sitting in Virgo. Good shuffle. And Virgo is like the Virgin, right? Very feminine sign, feminine, earthy sign. Having Venus there, it's very much at home there. And so if we think about ourselves as also extensions of Mother Earth too, just cultivating our own inner richness is very much a theme too. But Virgo, my card pull for you is the Chariot. I love that card. So Virgos, we even have like the turtles and the Cancer, the crab, and it's the Chariot is about, I was talking about how Mars is like the drive and how you like get ish done, like the push. So the Chariot is very much expressed that same vibe, right? The push forward when odds seem impossible. And so Virgo, if you're dealing with something right now and you feel like the odds are stacked against you, this is just your sign to like, yeah, I can do it, you know, like you shall not. It's that like holding the line energy with the Chariot. So having this here with Virgo, especially with Venus there as well, is very much like if there's something that your heart wants, to defend that with all of your might, and you have the universe on your side when you do that. So there we go. Have courage. The universe rewards bravery. Oh my goodness. I guess that's my indicator that was perhaps the right thing to say, and also for us to end it. So I'm putting the cards back in my little dragon home to go back to sleep. And we're just going to do one last look at the chart of the everlasting now, just so I have this for the recording, because I will only take a recording of the starseed card readings, and then I will also have a little timestamp for each of the zodiac signs so that you can just jump to your sign the rest of the week to just check in with your starseed reading to see what little messages are there for you. Okay, so let's take a look. Yep, so we're moving very close into Scorpio very soon, but for now, happy birthday Libras. Moon is in Scorpio, so tonight there will probably be very emotional dreams. Scorpio does deal with the underworld as well, so as well, any kind of things that make you uncomfortable are good to address. I like to write down letters to myself, and it's kind of good here too, like with the sun and Mercury here, where words can come out just to like alchemize it. Or even if you want to like listen to music, that's another way to kind of bring out energies and have them kind of work through. Okay, so I hope I'm gonna go back to here. Thank you for joining me for this Magic Monday. We will be back next week for Magic Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you can catch us live on Rumble for the full uncut version, and I will hope to see all of you next week. Otherwise, I will see you in the replay or in the next video. So wherever you reside in the cosmos, I hope you have a beautiful day, evening, lunchtime, whatever the time zone is for you. And I will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one.